In this video, I'm going to talk to you about dropped gable end top chords versus notched gable end top chords. I'm Chad Johnson. I'm with Truss Components, and I've been in the truss industry for over 35 years. Let's get started. What is a drop top chord or a notch top chord, and why would we do it? Well, let's actually start with why we would do it. Most structures, if you look at an end section of them, you've got a slope, you've got a ceiling, you've got walls, and usually there is a overhang. So those overhangs are built into the structure in order to protect the siding, to give you a little bit of coverage so that when the weather is coming down, rain, snow, whatever, it's not going right on the edge of the house or on the foundation. Well, that's great for the sides of the house where the gutters would go, for instance, but what do we do on the end of the house? So if we're looking at the other direction on that same building, there's likely to be an overhang off of that gable to help protect those ends of the building as well. That overhang would look like that. So at the end of the building, how do we create that overhang when our trusses are going the opposite direction? Well, we have a couple of options, and the main way that it's done is to extend a member to the next truss back. So if this is our gable truss here over the end, we got another truss back, we're going to run a 2x4 or something along those lines back to the next member. It's going to extend out over the end of the building to create that gable overhang, and somehow we have to get those 2x4 members across the gable in one piece. So that's where our option to either notch the top chord or to drop the top chord comes in. So let's take a look at what a notch top chord versus a drop top chord frame might look like. So traditionally, framers would notch the top chord of that gable truss in order to get that outlooker or gable overhang on there. And so if this was the top chord of our roof truss, pretty standard is to cut a 1.5 inch deep by 3.5 inch wide notch in that top chord every 4 feet in order to run that outlooker member out. So this would be filled with a 2x4 perpendicular to that member, or like we talked about, running to the next truss back. If this is our gable truss and here's the next truss back, that 2x4 would be run out through that gable, and that gable would be notched out, and then it would go to our barge rafter out on the outside. This is the overhang here. Well, the downside to that is that we are structurally modifying that gable truss. That's one downside. Another downside is this is often done when the trusses are already up on the building, and so if you can imagine, the framer is up there with a worm drive saw or some other method to cut these notches. There's potential for falling, there's potential for injuring themselves with the saw, and so between the physical dangers, the inconvenience of doing that up on top of the walls, and the fact that we're structurally modifying the truss, this isn't typically the truss manufacturer's preferred method. Now, the upsides for it are that you can get a very tight-fitting joint between the outlookers and the truss. You can cut your siding tight around those members, and so from that standpoint, it does work well. It's what people have done for a long time, but there's another, in my opinion, as a truss manufacturer, better way to do it. So let's take a look at that. Let's talk about a drop top chord gable end truss. So in this case, we've still got our overhang built into that gable to go over the end of the building, but we come in a certain distance and then we drop the top chord of the truss 1.5 inches. And that allows us to run those outlookers right over the top of it. And we're not structurally modifying the truss. We don't have to drag a saw up to do it, all that. Now you might look at that and think, oh my goodness, what do I do with the space in between those? If my roof sheathing is going up on top of that, I can't have all these gaps. Well, that's right. So in between these outlookers, a block gets installed. So these may still be at 4 foot on center, so you end up putting a 3 foot, 10.5 inch block in between them. From the end, what that looks like is, this is our gable. Our outlooker comes across and ties into the next truss back, which is 1.5 inches taller. And then in between those outlookers, put a 2x4 block. Now, that 2x4 block is taking care of two purposes. One, it fills in the gap in between those outlookers, and two, it provides a nice, easy to trim against edge for the top of the siding. So if you think about the notched top chord like we were talking about a minute ago, everywhere that there's one of those 2x4s in it, the siding has to be cut around those, whereas with the drop top chord, we end up with a even surface between the outlookers and the blocks to tie our siding into, and we get a real clean look. A couple of different ways to get a gable overhang. One is to notch your top chord so that you can run outlookers out and carry that bar drafter and your roofing. The upside to that is that you can make a tight joint around those outlookers, and it's what a lot of people are just accustomed to doing. It's kind of the way things have been done for a long time. Downsides, you're structurally modifying the truss, you're doing saw work up in the air, which can be dangerous, and your siding is going to need to be cut or notched around those notches. So just more to do. The other way that you can get your overhangs is you can drop that top chord, and the benefits of that are that you're not going to need to be working up on the structure with a saw. Once you put that blocking in, you get a nice even trim line for your siding. You're not altering your truss structurally, so those are all good benefits to doing the drop top chord. And it's not limited to dropping 1.5 inches. If you're doing an enclosed soffit, for instance, and you have, let's say, a 2x4 top chord on your trusses and therefore a 2x4 tail that's going to determine how deep your soffit is, the trusses can be dropped 3.5 inches for a 2x4 on edge. So we've got good flexibility in that way for those gable overhangs. When you're notching your top chord, you can't really get away with notching it 3.5 inches deep. That would cut all the way through your top chord. So I hope this has been helpful. If you would like to learn more about the anatomy of a truss, you can take a look at this video here, and there'll be more down in the notes below.